Wonder Woman issue 0. That's right. We've done a whole year of Wonder Woman New 52 because it's time for that September period of the 0 issues. Although technically would this have been actually before issue 12? I think we talked about this at the end of the last review. In terms of the trade had it here at least. The trade had it.
No, it was always after 12.
Was it always
because
after
12 would have been if 1 was September.
Ah, you're right.
12
you're
would
right.
have been August.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Wonder Woman issue 0, which I mean I definitely stopped reading the book by then anyway, so I'd never read this 0 issue.
It's a pretty unique 0 issue, as the 0 issues go, I think, from what I remember from some of them.
I mean, I have forgotten pretty much. I remember one of the Batman 0 issues was the story of how all the Robins and Batgirls saw the signal turn on for the first time, and I actually thought that was an okay little idea.
Yeah, I think the main I mean, it might have been part of that, but the main Batman one, I think, was teasing the Red Hood gang stuff.
Yeah,
that was coming up.
It may have been Detective I'm thinking of, but whatever one it was, I remember thinking that was an okay idea for the 0 issue. That said, though, as a concept, I hated it because it meant every book took a break from its arc, and I don't mind one series taking a break for a flashback issue, but when all of them do it at the same time, it was extremely tedious.
It was very frustrating, even though I think it's fair to say that some of the issues were good. Like some of them, the creators rose to the task and came up with a good, solid issue. Some of them made it really relevant to their books. Others just kind of went, I don't really know what to do here, and you've just told me I have to, so just take this.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is an interesting story concept. We have young Diana on Themyscira basically forming a relationship with Ares, who shows up and wants to train her, and she trains with him in secret, feeling sort of isolated from her sisters, thinking she's made from clay. Of course, that goes against what we've learned in this series, but obviously Diana doesn't know that yet because she's only like 12.
Contextually, it all works.
And yeah, so you've got the story of him training her, and then eventually sort of put her through these various tests, essentially fighting her to the death when she demands that she use a real blade. Chooses mercy on her, doesn't kill her when he wins the fight, but on her 13th birthday wants her to sort of prove herself yet again in another way, and he takes her down to essentially this maze beneath a secret part.
The labyrinth.
Yeah, the labyrinth. Yeah, it's the Minotaur in the labyrinth, and she goes down there, and she actually, much like the in this case it's a magic lasso she's using, but she actually has the the rope tethering her to the entrance so she can get back out. And she fights the Minotaur, wins the fight. The Minotaur's down, and Ares shows up, gives her a sword, and says, "You must finish it. You must, kill it, defeat your enemy. You're a warrior." Yada yada yada. And she looks at her own reflection in the Minotaur's eye and chooses not to, because this is a helpless creature now, and it's the wrong thing to do. And Ares immediately basically disowns her. Right there and then. You're the biggest disappointment I've ever had, Diana.
Pretty much. He actually says, "Thou art my greatest failure."
There you go, yeah. He went from basically, I'm so proud, I'm a proud father right now, to, oh, I hate you. You've disappointed me. Great shame. You brought me great shame.
It went against his core belief, essentially.
Yeah. The Minotaur's back up, though, and chooses not to fight Diana, essentially showing some understanding or respect instead.
Yeah, Ares' whole warning is that, if you don't put them down, if you show them mercy, then your enemies will remember and they'll just come back at you with a vengeance. And this maybe proves him wrong.
Yeah, the whole point here is that this recognised the mercy that was given, just like Diana did. Diana even says to Ares, "You didn't kill me," and the Minotaur recognises that kindness and sort of treats her with, at least the respect of a fellow warrior, and just walks back into its labyrinth. And Diana comes out, and it ends with her looking at the sunrise. It's an okay story. I appreciate the kind of final beat that it wanted here. I'm not so sure how much I love the idea that Ares was like training her as a young teen.
I think it works in context of the run as a whole, because the whole thing here is Ares is grooming her to be his replacement, essentially, and that's what he's looking for, the next god of war, and that's he's hiding that from her, but not from us. This is those first teasers of that this is his plan.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue with the book here was probably the early sort of third of it, like before it really get into what it was doing, where it was just kind of like, okay, here she is in the island, here she is in combat with her sisters. I'm like, okay, I've seen this sort of type of Diana story.
I agree. I will say what made this not unique entirely, but unique in the modern sense, is that this was presented as like a Silver Age issue with like lots of text boxes explaining the thing. It was very much done as a intentional throwback, and they kind of took that idea of doing a flashback Zero issue and ran with it.
Yeah, I would have dialed that back a little bit. I think that's actually one of the reasons why I felt the first like sort of third of the book was tougher to get through, is it was just too much of it, and it felt like each page was taking a bit longer than I would have liked.
I think that's fair. I think I was kind of into the novelty of it, I guess, but I can see why that wouldn't appeal to everyone. I mean, absolutely.
I appreciate the technique. I just think, given what was on the pages was really kind of ho-hum, typical stuff that we've seen before. It feels like we're regurgitating old ground. So, I mean, the phrase is retreading old ground, I realise that. But you know what? Regurgitating old ground is my new spin on it. Just live with it.
It'll do.
I mean, I like the beat that it actually plays. I like the ultimate idea of, like, a story where Wonder Woman essentially learns what mercy is and why it's important to her. Like, I think that's a very noble aspiration. And what's funny about this is that the colours here in her outfit is actually for much more traditional Wonder Woman than the actual run is, because this is not the New 52 outfit. This is, it's not even, I mean, it's not our traditional outfit necessarily, but it's, reds and blues and golds. It's what I think of as Wonder Woman. So
it looks pretty great.
There's elements of that I really like, and the art is pretty strong. So, I mean, it's probably one of the better issues the book's had, mainly because it's not tied up with...
It's hyper-focused, isn't it?
It's hyper-focused, but it's not... I mean, it's everything going on with all the gods right now in the main story is irrelevant here. It's
This is just seeding her relationship with Ares for the future of the book, really. Some of the little godly beats that I liked, actually, was... there's a close-up panel of an owl watching her, taking her first steps with Ares, which is a really nice touch because the owl is Athena usually. So just this idea that there's someone watching out over this. The gods aren't just letting Ares do his own thing with her.
I think. Yeah, I think for me, obviously you're saying it works in the context of the run, given what Ares' goals in the run is, but I wouldn't mind this story being transplanted into a current continuity. I would just take out Ares and change it with someone who, not someone who's going to disown her at the end for not doing it, but swap him with someone who's just training her, who's trying to teach her the same thing, essentially.
Sure, yeah.
And have her make the choice not to, and have that kind of be a big character moment for her. I think that would, I would work just as well. Who's the character who usually trains her growing up? I can't remember her name, but
it begins with an A, I'm pretty sure, but that doesn't narrow it down too much.
No, it doesn't. No. But you know what I mean. Like, I feel like the same beats can be made without it being Ares. Without it being the creepy Uncle Ares with a big beard who comes out and
I kind of love this Ares though in that way. But I think what's interesting about this issue is. I know you can say what you want about the run as a whole and its place in continuity. This issue being established as taking place so early in Diana's life actually functions as continuity in its own right, because this is long before she ever left Paradise Island. This is just something she went through for roughly a year of her life on growing up on Themyscira, and I think that you could tell me this was current continuity. I don't think there's anything that really contradicts it.
Not contradicts, but like I say, I would rather it wasn't Ares.
That's fair.
I just don't like that element of it. So,
I think I quite like the idea of her learning mercy from war. I think that's a really interesting spin on what Diana is, and traditionally, and all of her history fighting in wars, and going all the stuff in comics history. Her role in World War II, for example, that we had. This idea of learning mercy from war, I think, as opposed to kind of getting caught up in the horror of it, is kind of interesting for me.
It's just one of those things for me where it's this trope where you sort of insert some of the big villains earlier and earlier in the character's backstory, and it kind of bugs me. And I think there's strength in having them not encounter the villain until they encounter them, but have the animosity, have the tension build from there. One of my least favorite things in all of storytelling is somehow inserting a villain into someone's past. I despise it with every fiber of my being. So
I completely get that feeling. Like I say, I think I give this more of a slide in that, you know, these are gods, they're around, they make sense, not necessarily for them to be villainous and really insert themselves, but her to be familiar with them, to have some sort of relationship with some of them doesn't bother me as much in this context as some other ones. You know, there are some really bad examples of this.
It's not the most egregious version of it by any means. It's just this. It feels like a lazy way to try and build in this personal connection, when I often feel it has the opposite effect, because I can just see the cogs working, trying to make me care in a way that you've not earned. Whereas just doing it, you know, just having someone who meets a character, you know, character A, the protagonist, meets character B, the villain, and from that point on, everything the villain does makes the hero, you know, hate or need to counteract them, and everything they do from that point on. So if you can, you know, like, I can't think of a good example, but look at the Dark Knight trilogy, right? And obviously Joker couldn't come back because Heath Ledger passed away, but everything that builds between the Joker and Batman's relationship in that movie is not based on a single thing that happens before both of them met. It's completely based on how they clash once they're actually in each other's worlds. And compare that to Tim Burton's Batman, where, oh my god, he was the one who shot the parents, and it tries to build...
Oh yeah, I despise that.
Yeah. It's just, it's the first example my brain goes to, but...
No, I get that. I think this one, it doesn't feel as clunky as those things, because by the end of this, Diana, she doesn't hate Ares. She hasn't got this huge animosity that's going to be there in the future. There's just a slightly awkward relationship at this point from where it is. Like, they had quite a close relationship.
It doesn't have to be animosity, though. There's several examples of them just putting the villain in the hero's past, just so that they're, you know, they've got a connection with them before, even if there's nothing villainous yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Even just look at, you know, and this is, again, not a great example because some people would say it's the best part of this, but even look at Smallville with, you know, Lex is in Smallville with, you know, best friend in Clark the whole time. And
yeah, I mean, it probably is the best part of it because Michael Rosenbaum's a good actor, but...
Well, it's one of these things where I'm not saying that if you build your story from scratch and you've got a completely new concept, and part of it is that the villain and the hero know each other their whole lives or know each other from an early age before things go bad, that's fine. But there's a lot of retconning that goes on in serialized storytelling with comics, with TV shows, with whatever, and or with adaptations of these things even.
Which I think in many ways you could refer to this as an adaptation. Like, this whole run of Wonder Woman is kind of an adaptation of, like, you know, a lot of stuff from, you know, Crisis through to the New 52. This is kind of an adaptation of Wonder Woman in many ways.
I guess, yeah, I don't like it. What are you written this?
I'm going to give it a 8. I think it would have been a 7.5, but I'm going to give it the 8 because the art's really strong. I think it's some of Chang's finest work here.
I will give it... I'll probably get a 6.5. I feel like it's one of the better issues that they've had of this book. It's definitely the best one in the last couple, because I really didn't like the last one. But it is more focused and makes more of a good character beat than I've typically had from this run. So that feels true to Wonder Woman as well, especially. So